This is Call on the Field Stands. I'm Jeff Mapis, here with Ryan Denchef. Actually, not here with Ryan Denchef. Due to this virus, we are separated tonight.
Yes. It's been a while since we recorded one of these podcasts. A few weeks. We did the mock draft. I think it was probably our last episode 3 or so weeks ago. So we've been a little stagnant. We had a lot of shit going on, obviously. We're both still working, luckily, knock on wood. Glad that's continued. I know a lot of people obviously don't have that luxury to continue working, and there's just all this shit going on. So had a little space between episodes, but we're back. I think we're settled down a little bit. Hopefully we'll be getting back to some semblance of normalcy here in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll get football back, hopefully, this fall, and which is obviously in baseball, obviously will eventually get started, one would presume at some point. We'll talk plenty of that on the podcast. But as we've talked about many times, NFL continues to dominate every month, even when sports are going. And even now that there's no sports, the only sports topic to talk about, NFL draft in, 3 days from today, I guess. Today is Monday, the 20th, 420. All you 420 peeps out there. But we have the draft on Thursday. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Looking forward to this conversation. Look forward to the draft.
Absolutely,
Per
man.
usual.
Yep, I'm glad they figured out how to keep the draft on the same date and keep this thing rolling because we are all itching for some sports talk.
Yeah, I mean, we were contemplating, like, before the whole virus really, the shit really hit the fan. We're like, were they even going to still do free agency because of the, doing visits? Are people going to be able to do visits? How are they going to do their medical exams and all that kind of stuff? Is the draft going to get pushed back because free agency gets pushed back? Luckily, nothing was really altered so far with the NFL season, and we're off and running. Going to be a little bit different of a draft this year, of course, as they're doing everything virtually through some type of virtual situation. I don't know if they're using Zoom or what the hell they're using. I think aren't they using Zoom because people were complaining about
concerned.
Getting hacked or something.
Yeah, they were worried about Zoom, and I don't know. I would like to think that a $1 billion corporation can figure it the fuck out on how to make this thing work.
Yeah, no shit. So sounds like that's going to be the case. So that kind of leads into our first topic. Like, what do you think the experience is going to be like? And how do you think it's going to be different? Are you still excited about the draft, knowing that it's going to be less of a fanfare? The coverage is going to be a hell of a lot different. The in-person interviews that you always see, people crying and talking about how much they love their family and think their mom and all this kind of stuff as they're talking to reporters, 30 seconds after hugging Goodell. Like, all this is going to be changed. The whole experience is going to be different viewing it. There's no fans going to be there. It's just going to be all different. So what's your kind of outlook? Like, do you think it's going to, the change in how they're going to execute it, do you think that's going to take away from the excitement at all of the draft this Thursday and then Friday? Most people don't really give a fuck about the third day, but the first 2 days are obviously the big 2 days, especially Thursday.
No, excitement is still going to be there, mainly because, we are all craving something in the sports world, and the NFL draft is about to deliver. It sucks more so for the players that planned on going there and having that experience, I think. I'm sure a lot of them growing up dreamt of walking on that stage, being selected as a first-round pick. But even if they weren't able to go, they're not even really supposed to be getting in a large group. So, are they even going to be celebrating
with their
friends and family? Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird.
I always enjoyed seeing some of those. Baker Mayfield comes to mind. He was at his house, his whole squad was there. You see them they show the tapes later, them getting the call, talking to the GM, and then they celebrate and everything. That's probably not going to be any of that.
No,
which is crazy.
No.
So it's gonna be weird, but I think just the excitement is going to be there from the fans' perspective. Like you said, there's been no sports at all. And if anyone's followed along on the Twitter, I've been simulating an all-time NBA matchups bracket on NBA 2K on the Xbox because I just wanted to get some sports and competition at any level. So I see the computer play the computer throughout this tournament. It's been pretty interesting and fun to watch, even though the Nuggets of 07 are just running to the finals.
Yeah. How is that possible, man? They didn't win anything, and here they are upsetting the 90s Bulls. What is going on?
They beat the 90s Bulls, and then earlier today they beat the 12-13 Heat. I'm like, yeah, Melo's good, and Chauncey Billups was a dog back then too, but come on. Let's be real here. I don't know how that – it's just been crazy upsets. Reminds me of a NCAA bracket, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's got those Cinderella stories. But anyways, yeah. So going back to the draft, I think it's going to be, just as enjoyable, and honestly, probably a little bit more so, because in years past, you just kind of watch the draft and we'll text and shit like that, talk about the Browns and different picks and stuff like that. But this year, especially without being able to be around friends and family, we're setting up a virtual watch party on Zoom where us and some friends and stuff are going to be drinking beers and watching the draft and bullshitting through the draft. So that's actually going to be something that we haven't done before, and actually I think going to make it more fun than watching the draft in years past. I mean, I've went to a bar and stuff like that, and that's been kind of fun. But it's going to be sweet to just kind of shoot the shit with the friends and watch the draft and guess what's happening. I got a little wagering system that I'll share with you here in a second that I want to throw out there, see what your thoughts are on it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be, people are going to find ways to get creative. Twitter is going to be absolutely bonkers, probably.
Yeah.
Through the draft, people live tweeting and commenting because, just the interaction and the engagement of what's going to be displayed on TV is probably going to be a lot less than we've seen in the past. There's not going to be those interviews. There's not going to be as much of the that kind of fanfare type stuff. It's just going to be analysts talking and showing highlights. Like, it gets kind of boring after a while. So,
right.
Yeah. But anyways, tell me what you think about this. So this is what I'm thinking. On the Zoom call, we'll have 1 point per correct selection guess. And then whoever is at the end with the most points wins. So basically, we'll do a live time, like, a couple minutes left on the clock. Everybody has to submit their pick on what Cincinnati Bengals are up first. Everybody has to submit who they think they're going to pick. Everybody's going to say Joe Burrow. Everybody's going to get 1 point. Number two,
nice.
If there's a trade, we can say, like, okay, there's a trade. You get another couple minutes to reselect, because if Miami trades up, everybody's going to pick Tua. But there's going to be plenty of people getting shit wrong, of course. So, yeah, right before the pick, we'll submit our guess. And if you get it right, you get a point. If you get it wrong, you get 0 points. And then whoever has the most points at the end wins the pot of gold at the end. So,
I dig it.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
Fun. Another fun element to mix it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. Be gunning for the win.
Yeah, dude. Like what I'm saying, I'm actually kind of more excited for this draft than all other drafts. And maybe a part of it is this has been nothing, like no sports to be consumed for so long. That
it's something to do.
Yeah, itching to get some type of sports back in our lives, I guess. So.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm excited about that.
Yes, sir.
So enough talk about the draft. Let's get into some specifics.
Yes, sir.
Let's start with quarterbacks we hate and love. And I'm going to start with one that I hate. I don't understand why he's getting as much hype. Well, I do, because there aren't that many good quarterbacks. And, well, there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. But based on what I'm reading and watching, I'm not on the Justin Herbert train at all. Would not want to take him in the top 10. Think that's
where he's going.
He's going.
That's where he's going.
There's going to be a team taking him. Might be the Chargers. But
that's what I think's going to take him.
Yeah, watching briefly what I've seen of him this year, and doing a ton of reading, because that's all there is to do in the sports world right now. He's not really a quarterback that can drop back and is like a process guy. He's not going to be the quarterback to be able to get his pre-snap reads correctly and diagnose the coverage as the bullets are flying at him. So, he's just not – I just don't see him as a long-term quarterback one in this league.
Yeah, the tough part about him is – and I actually like Herbert. I think he's, I don't know, probably my third, I guess easy enough to say, third best quarterback on the list behind, of course, Burrow and Tua, who I think, Burrow and Tua, significant drop to Herbert at number 3. But, I mean, I don't know. I've watched him several times this year. He's on the late games at bars and shit like that. I thought he balled the fuck out. I liked what he was doing. I liked his physical talent. And it's hard, Oregon, how sophisticated of an offense are they allowing him to run? So that kind of plays into, he didn't do a lot of, multi-read dropbacks and all this kind of stuff. I was like, he also played in a system that I don't really think is, setting up to be Peyton Manning or anything like that. So it's tough a lot of times. I mean, most quarterbacks are like that, almost in all situations. Quarterbacks coming out of the draft, the college systems are simplified in such a way that predicting how they're going to study the playbook and, be able to absorb NFL concepts and things like that. It's hard to really grasp that as an outsider looking in when you haven't talked to the dude, you're not interviewing him, you don't know what he's like in film, all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of hard to really guess if he's going to be able to translate to the league in that respect. But I think talent wise, I think he's going to be sweet. And I think I don't know why, I just think he's going to be able to pick up as he goes and continue to improve. Again, I mean, he also, improved throughout his career as well in college. So I don't know. I kind of like Justin Herbert. But my hate is Jordan Love. And I think it's just because basically all what you said about Herbert is kind of my ideas on Love. Like, I just don't understand how he's getting rated so high. Like, they're talking about him going top 15 with a guy who's almost certainly going to have to sit for a year. So, like, maybe a team like the Buccaneers might take a flyer on him, have him sit behind Brady for a couple years, then have him slot in, and maybe he can learn enough to become the guy. But I don't know. I haven't seen the skill and the talent from Love from the other guys. And honestly, I think my number 4 QB, which might give me some slack on this, is I still think Jake Fromm is going to be a nice NFL prospect, and he would actually be my number 4 guy above Jordan Love. And he's actually getting almost no love when it comes to some of the top QBs and guys who might go in that first round. But I think he's one of those sleeper QBs who I think is going to drop a little bit, and a team's going to scoop him up, and he's going to turn into a nice prospect. I mean, I remember watching him as a freshman in Georgia and thinking, like, this dude is a freshman, and when he comes out, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick because he's that good.
Yeah.
Kind of regressed a little bit. Georgia's offense, I mean, you would think with their running backs and all, and being in the SEC and dominating year after year, like, their offense, I don't know, Kirby Smart just doesn't have it all put together to the point where they're rumbling offense in the SEC. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, they kind of still have that old school style. Like, we have our stud O-line unit, we have our stud running backs. We're going to pound the rock and let Jake Fromm make some throws here and there. They also
His numbers are solid though too. Like, he doesn't throw a lot of picks.
Yeah.
Completion percentage is high. He doesn't put up a ton of stats because that's just, I think, the nature of their offense. So I don't know. Jake Fromm's a little underrated, and I think he's going to be nice in the NFL.
They had a drop off in wide receiver talent this year.
For
I
sure.
mean, they lost Holloman, their best target, to suspend. He got kicked out of school, and it would have been nice to have him paired with that freshman George Pickens, that 5-star who is going to be a stellar receiver. But going back to Love, I don't understand the hype at all.
Yeah.
Seeing the cut-ups of him that's being floated around on social media and online, like, that dude is not going to be an NFL quarterback, and someone for sure is going to reach on him in the first round, and it's going to be an instant bust.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only way he doesn't become an instant bust is if he goes to a situation where, like I said, he's expected to sit 1, if not 2 seasons. Like I said, the Buccaneers kind of make a lot of sense, but, I anticipate them trying to go and get somebody who's going to impact now. I mean, you just signed Brady to an enormous contract. Like, you don't want to take a first-round pick who you're not even going to play. Like, you want somebody who's going to slot in there and help Brady and help that team win. But just trying to think of, like, some other situation off the top of my head. I'm not really sure who that might be. So he's probably going to go first round to a team that wants a QB and wants a starter, but I don't think if they expect him to come in day 1 and be the starter and lead them to, anything more than another shitty season.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to see how that makes sense.
Yeah.
He could easily drop second round because of that fact. Like, the top tier teams that need a QB, they're not going to pick him. And I don't think the other teams that are, like, obviously are in the back of the draft for a reason. They're good teams. They're not going to want to sit back. I mean, I'm trying to think, maybe like the Saints could do something like that. I don't know. There's, I guess,
they're in win now mode too.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a quarterback in place, you're like all in on, we need to win now. Well, anything can happen. You saw what happened with Andrew Luck. Dude quit, retired like that. And going back to Jake Fromm real quick, I think what is going to hold him back is his athletic ability. He's kind of just like a big body that can drop back, kind of extend plays at the college level, but not going to be able to do that in the NFL. So,
I arm. I don't know.
I like Jake Fromm. He's got the arm. He's intelligent. I mean, you already mentioned it. He commanded their offense as a freshman, and they went to the national championship that way. So I've always liked Fromm too. That'd be one hindrance on him, is his overall athletic ability and mobility in the pocket. But
especially you see, I wouldn't say a shift, I'm kind of said shift, but you see a lot more athletic QBs becoming more, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like,
Prominent.
yeah, in the NFL, athletic quarterbacks are becoming the norm, I guess,
Yeah.
more so than guys who just sit back there and just sling it, like the Brady's and the Mannings and things like that. Like the young QBs who are coming up right now, pretty much all of them have some decent athletic ability, can extend plays, like you said, get out of the pocket, can scramble a little bit. So that could be,
Yeah, it's part of the um, evolution of offenses in high school and into college that we've seen over the past 20 years. I
right.
mean, it used to be that traditional big, strong arm quarterback that would drop back and chuck the ball downfield. You got to be able to do more than that in today's game. So
Faux show. And one other thing that, we should get into as we're still on the quarterbacks. I don't really think we need to talk about Burrow. He's going number one. If he doesn't, it's going
yeah,
to be the
no,
shocker of, I don't remember how long of a draft, like when we've had a draft shocker as big as it would be if Burrow doesn't go number one. So the other topic is, and we mentioned, there's Burrow into a decent sized gap. With that being said, and Burrow slotting into number one and the Bengals are pretty much investing every draft resource that they have into, getting in front of Joe Burrow and basically getting him started already. He's going number one. But
yeah,
where does Tua go? The Redskins are sitting at 2. They drafted Haskins last year, I believe in the top 10, or maybe just outside. So one would presume he's still the guy. He only started like 12 games or something like that. But Ron Vera comes in. They might want to move on from Haskins already. Maybe he doesn't see anything special in him and wants to get a guy like Tua who he sees can be the guy for the next 15 years. Do they stay there and take Tua? Do they trade back? Do they just take Chase Young and see how the chips may lie? Because, I mean, the Lions probably aren't going to take him if he doesn't go number 2. So that leaves, the Dolphins kind of are the team that we've slotted as the team that's probably going to want him the most. Who's the 4th pick? I forget who's slotted. Is it the Giants at 4?
the
They're
Giants. Yeah,
obviously not going to pick a quarterback. So
no.
do the Dolphins trade up to 2? Do the Chargers try to trade up to 2 to jump over Miami? What do you think happens with Tua in this draft?
I mean, that's going to be the most intriguing aspect of the top 10 is who's moving and where are they moving? Like the Redskins, are they really going to value Chase Young as that all-time great edge rusher that they cannot pass up? Or are they going to hang that pick in front of Miami and the Chargers and create a little bit of a bidding war and see who's going to give up the most? I mean,
Yeah.
they have the leverage to do that. If I were them, that's what I would do. I mean, Chase Young or several first round picks when you
Yeah.
have all those needs. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. Chase Young is a total monster, but at the same time, I mean, you've seen in this league, you can find effective pass rushers, whether it's through the draft or in free agency. Like, it's not you know, it's not like if they don't take Chase Young, they're going to be set back years. It's
Right.
nothing like that. So really, they can go either way and feel good about what they did. They can stay there and take Chase or move back. If they take Chase, then the Lions, they absolutely need to move back. I mean, they need to be aggressive with their trade negotiations. Like
Yeah.
they have a lot of leverage there. I mean, if the Redskins aren't going to, they really need to move back.
Yeah. And I think the most sensible thing, I think the Dolphins can basically lock in getting Tua if they really, really want to.
Yeah, I think so too.
You mean, like you mentioned, they have 3 first round picks. They have 18 and somewhere in the 20s. So, if they offer to the Redskins, number 5 swap with number 2 plus the 18th overall pick and maybe like a 3rd rounder or something like that, something else, or maybe a future draft pick, who knows? But if we're just sticking with the first round of this year, if they throw in that 18th pick, like you said, if you're the Redskins, you drop back to 5, you're still guaranteed to get one of the best players in the draft. You're only moving back a couple spots. You still got Okuda, you got Simmons. The Giants most likely will go tackle, but if they don't, they might get one of those, and you're left with a slew of really talented players there still at 5.
For sure.
And then you get an extra pick. I mean, they have a lot of needs. There's a reason why they were the second overall. They have the second overall pick in this draft. So by adding another first round asset, and a lot of things, we'll see this too. Like trades almost always happen towards the end of the first round. People kind of forget that first rounder has a 5th-year option automatically guaranteed into their contract, whereas a second round a second rounder doesn't. So if a team can trade up 4 slots from, the second pick in the second round to the second to last pick in the first round, they move up 4 spots and add an entire year's worth of talent of a contract onto that player. So you're going to see teams that are going to want multiple first round picks, especially towards the back end of the draft. So the Redskins are in a prime position to try to swap that pick with the Dolphins, because they're going to, regardless if it's 2 or 3, if they want to trade up to try to secure that pick, they're going to have to get up multiple first rounders no matter what. So perfect position right now for the Redskins. But if they decide, Chase Young is too much of a generational talent to pass up, we're just going to take him. And like you said, the Lions almost have to trade back. And at that point, you're only going 2 slots. It's hella worth moving those 2 spots, plus probably getting another first rounder. That might be the later in the 20s first rounder, or maybe even in next year. But it's worth it to them, I would say, to trade back. And I think Tua is going top 3 almost certainly to either the Chargers or the Dolphins. That's my prediction.
Yeah. No, it's a lock. And if he doesn't, then those 2 teams are idiotic. Hell, maybe the Lions freaking just take Tua and say
they could.
Stafford, your days are numbered. We need to go in. Not that I think Stafford's bad. That's not what I would do.
Dude's like 30, 31 years old, maybe 32. He's somewhere in the low 30s.
You can never predict what the Lions are about to do.
That's true.
They could totally just fuck this draft. All the
tight end in the first round,
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So, it's going to be intriguing, the whole Tua situation, because there's that big, a big gap that a lot of people see between Tua and everybody else below him, Herbert or Fromm or Love or whomever. I think there's going to be a run for the top, 2 or 3 pick, depending on what happens there between the Chargers and the Dolphins. But who knows? There's another team could jump up and make a run and
who knows?
Unload to try to get Tua. Like, there's a lot of teams. Everybody needs QB for pretty much. If you don't have a QB, you're fucked. And if you don't have one, you need to find a way to get one. And do you want to take a flyer on a guy like Fromm or Love? Probably not.
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, I'm sure there are bidding wars happening literally right now.
And that's another thing. It gives another advantage to the Redskins because it's so obvious who's going to go number 1. They've basically been on the clock for 4 months now. So
right.
It's puts them in a pretty decent spot. So
yeah, no, I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
So obviously we don't need to touch on Tua or Burrow's skills, like you said. Clear number 1 and 2.
The only thing that Tua it gets sketchy is his health.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, he's going to be a stud.
Yep.
But is he going to be healthy? That's obviously the big question mark.
And I think
might mix things up a little bit.
I think he'll recover from his hip injury, but we've seen him get knocked out of games before.
Right.
Like, it's not just that injury, that recent injury recovery I'm worried about. It's his overall durability long term. So
yeah, definitely.
But he's clearly talented enough to take at number 2 or 3 there. So moving on from the quarterbacks, non-quarterbacks that you are in love with, that are absolutely safe picks, are not going to bust, and have the most potential to be quality starters to, the superstar level players, somewhere in that range.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I'll go first with this. So, there's a few. Burrow, I think, is going to be a complete stud. He's one of those QBs that it's like one of those, to me, a can't miss QB. If he turns into a bust, it'll be one of the biggest shockers of a bust that I've seen in quite some time. But outside of that, Chase Young, I think, is a similar. He might be the best college football player I've ever watched play. And arguably it could be between him and Burrow, and it's happened in the same year. So, but besides those 2, I guess my number 1 guy in the draft besides those top 2 is Jeff Okudah. And it's not just because I'm a Buckeye fan. A lot of this stems, I said a lot of this in our last episode when we did the mock draft. I think he is one of the best corners we've seen come into a draft in our lifetimes, for sure. There's a handful of guys who you could throw in there, Patrick Peterson, Ramsey, him, Okudah. Like, there's a handful of guys who you could throw in that conversation. His ball skills are next level. And that's another thing that you see in the league is cover corners are so valuable. We've seen Revis Island and how valuable that was for the Jets. If you get a guy who can lock up one-on-one and you can just forget about him, that is one of the most important positions, one of the most important assets you can have on your entire team. And I think Okudah is, in my opinion, he might be the best corner I've seen come into a draft. Just the way his corner or his covering ability. And Denzel Ward goes number 4 to the Browns a couple years ago. Okuda's a much better tackler, much better pursuer than Ward ever was, and an even better cover guy. So he can basically do everything, and he's a freak athlete, and he's super intelligent. Like, he's just got the entire package for a corner, and is a can't miss guy in this draft, as can't miss as they come of anybody in the draft. So that's kind of mine. Kind of an easy cop out for me, since I've watched him every snap of his entire career. So I kind of was able to absorb and just see how good he really was. But it just stands out more than any other player.
Sure.
Besides maybe Chase Young, who, like I said, might be the best college player I've ever seen. And then Joe Burrow's just, dude threw 60 touchdowns. Like, it's just absurd. So,
yeah, it's absurd.
That's
I like Jeff Okuda a lot. In fact, I think you could argue that his value is significantly higher than Chase Young in this draft because of what you said. Like, cover corners do not grow on trees. Like, no. And especially this class, I mean, there are really only 3 corners I'd be comfortable with taking in the first round if I were a GM. Obviously, Jeff Okuda is at the top, and there's a huge gap after him. And like you said, the names you mentioned there are absolute studs coming out. And I agree with you. He's at that level of talent. So, I easily think you can make the case at number 2 there, if the Redskins stay, that they take Jeff Okuda instead of Chase Young. And I wouldn't fault them at all for that, because you can find pass rush. You can find, like, if they have Chase Young and then 3 other trash linemen on their front, is Chase Young really going to make that much of an impact, in the
right
getting after the pass? Like, yeah, he's good. He's going to get his, but you can build a defensive line unit that has, as a whole, they're a quality unit. Cornerbacks are left by themselves.
That's another thing. To not to derail your point, but you made a good point with Chase Young. Like, you can build your offensive scheme around stopping a D end a hell of a lot easier, and take, Chase Young, like you said, if he's the only guy on a shitty D line, like, you can build your offensive strategy to take him out of the game and reduce his impact a lot more than you can say, okay, we've got Jeff Okuda locking up our best receiver. You can't take that away. Like, there's nothing you can do
exactly
to keep their best corner, who's, island, from guarding your best receiver. You can do different things. You can slide an extra tight end. You can throw put a tight end in the backfield if you don't have a fullback. Give it a little chip. You can double team on the outside. Like, there's a lot you could do to try to negate what a defensive end can bring if he's the only guy on that line. But like you said, if they see the value, you can't do anything when you have an island at corner. You can't do anything to stop that, pretty much.
Agree.
Except throw away from him, which you don't want to do that.
No. So some of the players I love, I'll start with my favorite receiver in the draft is Jerry Jeudy. He's not the fastest receiver even on his own team, which is crazy.
Right.
But he's not the biggest per se either, but his footwork, agility, route running, ball skills, and playmaking ability after the catch, it's just absurd. You know how Tyreek Hill, almost every time that he can, after he catches it, he kind of turns quickly and squares the field to see, like, whatever defender is there. Because, you're taught to square the shoulders if you're running with the ball when you're approaching defenders. Jeudy, it has that kind of ability to where he can catch the ball and immediately turn and not just square up a defender, but make a decision on what he's going to do next with the ball. And it's like, he's just lightning quick, man. Yeah. He's just a total playmaker. I think he's a beast. Clear wide receiver 1, in my opinion. I think if someone takes a receiver over him, I think they're totally foolish. Not to say that receiver won't work out. There's a lot of good ones. But I personally think Jerry Jeudy is the safest, like, easily going to be a stud in this class when it comes to the receiver position.
Yeah, offensively, I don't know that. Maybe Burrow, but I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Offensively, I don't think there's a more can't miss guy than Jerry Jeudy. He's that good.
And we were talking about this. Like, we're not going to pretend that we're experts in anything we say, but especially O-line evaluations. Like, I don't know shit about O-line. I just read what people say.
He has a great first step footwork on the outside, and his kickback and his hands. Like, what the fuck do I know? I've never played O-line. Look at me. I weigh $150. Come on.
Yeah. So, I'd agree with you. He might be the the best, can't miss offensive player
His
in the draft.
instincts, I think, are what just separates him. And like you said, that obviously contributes, like his route running and his ability to kind of make guys miss once and decide what he's going to do with the ball and get
Yeah.
square after he catches it. A lot of that's just instincts, and he has some of the best we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah. So another
CeeDee Lamb is going to be
good.
a fucking dog too.
Dude, I think he's good.
I think the gap between Judy and Lamb is pretty damn tight. If somebody goes CeeDee Lamb over Judy, I'm not going to be like, that's really stupid. Like that, there's a reasonable argument to be had, in my opinion. Then I think there's a little bit of a drop off between the next couple guys. But those two, in my opinion, are a lot. It sounds like a lot more neck and neck than you have them.
Yeah, I think you have him a little closer than I do. But that's, like I said, CeeDee Lamb, good player. So the next guy I really like, in a class that doesn't have a whole lot of linebacker talent, like it's not deep in the first round. Patrick Queen is my number one linebacker in the draft out of LSU. After doing some more reading and watching some of his cut-ups, I mean, the dude has the instincts. I mean, he's physical and can cover. I think whoever is getting Patrick Queen is going to fill a nice hole at their linebacker position. And then next, my favorite player in the draft is Isaiah Simmons.
Yep.
He is the number one safety on the board easily. And I think he is right up there with Jeff Okudah and Chase Young as like, these guys are the three best players in the draft right here. Most talented, safest, like very high floor, but still have a high ceiling to succeed in the NFL. And the guy is between 6'3", 6'4". It's like 230, ran a 4.39. And I mean, he can do it all. Like they played him in the box. He can blitz and, under control. He led Clemson in sacks. I mean, some people have him as the best cover safety in the draft. So, I just think he is a surefire, cannot miss prospect.
But you have safety. But you have him definitely playing safety in the league then. Because, I mean, there's obviously a lot of conversation about him playing linebacker, outside linebacker, depending on the team. You see him definitely slotting in at safety. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's 100% a safety. If you start really watching him and, picked up on this from doing some reading too, he's not going to be able to hold up in the box 100% of the time. Where he is elite is, almost kind of like a Derwin James or Jamal Adams, where, they have him over the top, they roll him into the box, or like a Tyrann Mathieu even. Tyrann Mathieu kind of plays all over the field. Like, I like that comparison too, to where, he can blitz you. He can play over the top. He can, play one-on-one with certain receivers. Obviously he's not going to lock down everyone in the NFL, but, I think whether he's in zone or man against a lot of players in the league, he's going to be able to hold up and cover. Some people have him, Xavier McKinney. I saw a tweet from, forget who I think Seth Galina said they actually trust Xavier McKinney as an in-box safety more than Isaiah Simmons and would rather Isaiah Simmons over the top. Kind of interesting.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I think no matter where you line up Isaiah Simmons, he's going to be the guy. Like, he's the best cover safety. He's the best inside the box guy. Like, he's the best all-around player in this entire draft. So I think you could draft him, literally put him anywhere you want, and play him at 6 different spots throughout a game and just try to use him as a tool to confuse the quarterback on the opposite side. Like, there's so much you could do with him.
Yeah,
because he's an athletic freak and his instincts are, as good as they come. So
yeah,
that's a good one. Piggybacking off that, I think one of my guys, and I guess sticking with the DBs, CJ Henderson is another guy who I see being an elite step in day one corner who can be an NFL starter for a long, long time. Like, just watching, saw several of his games throughout the season at Florida, and he's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, he just has all of what you need to become a long time, decades long lockdown corner in the league. Like, he is actually a lot closer, I think, to Jeff Okudah in this draft as the number 2 corner than I think a lot of people are giving credit for. Recently, I've seen a lot more analysts and mock drafts and things like that showing Henderson moving up inside the top 10 even. And we could see that a team, whether it's the Falcons or whomever, somebody trade up inside the top 10 to go try to get the number 2 corner in this draft. And I think he's deservedly so to go top 10. He's that good. And I think he's going to be able to come in day one and just ball the fuck out, much like Jeff Okudah. He's a little bit less, talented and skilled wise overall, but he's up there and he has room to even improve even more. And his floor is not very low and his ceiling is, way the fuck up there. So,
yeah, no, he's going to go high. You always see, because corners, cover corners just aren't that available. Like Eli Apple, I thought was taken way too high when he was drafted. But at the same time, when you really think about it, how many like 6'1", 6'2" corners are there out there that can run? Like not many.
You'll see a lot of corners go high in this draft. Like Damon Arnett's another guy who could sneak into the top 10 in that back end.
Yeah.
We could see 5 corners go in the first round this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
You think so? Actually.
Yeah.
No, I think so. Yeah, you could.
Between those 3, potentially, Damon Arnett's kind of an outside just because there's so many studs. I mean,
I don't think he'll sneak into the first, but you got
Gladney could easily go top 10, who's another, or top first round, who's kind of that back end, Damon Arnett level.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs from Alabama.
AJ Terrell's another guy.
Yep.
So there's, I don't know, any one of those guys I think could be a starter in this league. AJ Terrell, I think, is one of those guys that I see going a little bit higher than he probably should. I don't know that he's, that high on my list of corners compared to some of the other guys. I'm not really sure why, just kind of a feel thing.
Yeah.
It could be something in my ass, but I just feel like what I've seen from him didn't impress me as much as some of the stuff that I've seen from some of the others.
I liked Christian Fulton a little more than AJ Terrell. He'd be number 3 at cornerback for me in the first round.
Yeah.
But so rolling into players that you dislike now. Hit on the players we liked there in the first round. What are some players that you're not really feeling that are being talked about?
I mean, I think AJ Terrell. I mean, it's funny. Like I'm sticking to mostly all the same positions here, but I feel like I just have paid more attention to the DBs, some of the wide receivers, things like that. Like I haven't really paid much attention to the linebackers. Haven't paid much attention. I mean, I've paid attention to the offensive linemen, but I'm like we said earlier, like I'm not going to pretend like I know enough about offensive line to say like, oh, Mekhi Becton's a bust, whereas Tristan Wirfs is going to be the next stud of all studs. Like offensive line, any number 4 or offensive tackle, any 4 of the main guys between Thomas, Wirfs, Wilkes, and Mekhi Becton. Like any of them could be a bust, I guess. All 4 of them could be superstars for a long time. Like I don't have enough. So I don't know. I think AJ Terrell is just kind of the guy who I think is going to go a little bit higher than I think he should, and he just didn't impress me enough from what I've seen, and maybe I just didn't dive enough into him. But just what I've seen, I feel like, I don't know, he just, maybe it's because I'm trying to compare him to some of the other corners that I really love, and he's just not as good. But I don't know, I think Terrell's the guy who I would put on my hate list, if you want to call it that. I mean, I think he's still, a top of second round guy, in my opinion. He's worth taking there. But, we've seen mock drafts of him going top 15, and I just don't see that happen. Like, I don't see the value being there for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him. Wouldn't take him that high.
That's kind of my guy. I'll say hate list. Just because he's, like I said, I don't think he's bad. I just think he's not as good as a lot of the other corners. He's lower on the list than a lot of people are putting him.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way with Grant Delpit, the safety out of LSU, sticking in the secondary. And this has been a subject even throughout the college football season, because I believe he won the Thorpe Award, and it was kind of like, it was almost like there was someone better than him last year when he actually had a really good year. So by default, they handed it to him this year because he's a junior. I feel like college football awards kind of do that sometimes. Like, oh, we got to give it to this guy earned it last year, but we couldn't give it to him. So here, we'll scratch your back. Because he was the 3rd best DB on his own team, arguably.
Right.
I mean, Derek Stingley is a beast and could go in the first round right now.
Right.
And Christian Fulton, per Pro Football Focus, allowed the least amount of receptions over the past 2 years or something absurd like that. So, Grant Delpit, he could be a good player. I've seen him in the top 18 range, and personally it goes Simmons, McKinney out of Bama, and then Antoine Winfield ahead of him for me. And then, I mean, even after that, I don't even know enough safeties to debate between them and Grant Delpit. So he's just another one. Like,
I mean,
in the second round,
you could
sure,
arguably say that Jeremy Chin is a better pick at safety than
yeah, you might be able to. So
Delpit.
he's just one I've seen, like I said, in the first round, and I've just I don't know. I don't really see him in the worth being taken in the top 20.
Yeah, another guy I meant to mention as my loves is Neville Gallimore. Talked about him a lot on the last podcast, so I won't rehash the same points, but just to point out, like, I think he's going to be one of the best D-line prospects coming out of this draft. Just his athleticism is pure as it gets. So that's one of my other top loves of the draft.
Hell yeah.
Who might actually, I think we're about to get into some sleepers. He might actually be a sleeper depending on if he goes for, like, he's, in my opinion, certain, no doubt first rounder, but he could drop a little bit. So he might turn into a sleeper. I'm not going to put him on my list because he should go first round.
He's from Oklahoma, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Dude, he's explosive.
Yeah.
He's a freak.
Just anybody go watch his highlights. They're disgusting.
Yeah, he's insane.
Interior D lineman he could play. I feel like he could play end if he wanted to.
Yeah. Speaking of Oklahoma, another guy I'm not really feeling in the first round is Kenneth Murray. And again, this is just coming from draft Twitter and then me going and watching, as many highlights as I can of him. He's an athletic freak. I mean, he's athletic.
That's where I fell in love with him a little bit early on, was his athleticism. Like, blew me away a little bit.
But I mean, it's hard to trust Big 12 defenders, more so in the back seven, especially at linebacker. In that league, I mean, it's pretty much like offenses run 100 miles per hour. Okay, ran this play, get lined up, snap the ball again. Like, how often are teams actually even getting set and getting their concepts called and in place that they want to? Kind of seems like Kenneth Murray just kind of roams around out there and
lets his athleticism carry him.
Just kind of waits for something to come to him and he reacts and that's it. So
he's a good enough athlete to just kind of wing it, especially in the Big 12, and still ball out. So
that will get you looking like a fool in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
You will be on film, like looking like, oh, what the hell is this guy doing? So yeah, I don't know. I would see her like second round, you need a linebacker. Okay. He's athletic enough. Why not? Yeah. So again, it's more so we're gearing this more so around like the first round. So outside of the first round, unless you want to stick in the first round with your boy Gallimore there, what sleepers you got?
Yeah, well, I mean, Gallimore is only a sleeper if he drops out of the first round. So, I don't really see anybody in this draft you can call a sleeper who goes first round. I think anybody in the back end is going to be slotted in unless, I mean, someone would have to drop, I don't know, somebody who's slotted up top is going to have to drop like an AJ Epinesa if he's there in the 30s or something like that. Like, okay. But one of my first sleepers, and this is a guy I've been, liking a lot early on, and a lot of it probably similar to why I like Ken Murray at the beginning. It's just his athleticism is ridiculous. Kyle Duggar out of, I don't even know how to say the college, Lenoir Rhine. I don't know. Never even fucking heard of this place. Never even heard of Kyle Duggar before, the combine and stuff like that, and kind of seeing his name listed and like, who the fuck is this guy? And looking into him a little bit. I think he's going to be a freak. Ran a 4.49, a 40-yard dash, 6 among safeties. He had a 42-inch vert, which was second out of the whole combine behind your boy Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then had a 134 broad jump, 6 overall in the entire draft as well. Dude's just an athletic freak. He did everything from returning punts to line up at safety and flying around all over the field. He's just an athletic freak, a really smart dude. I think I read about how he like studied engineering or architecture or something like that. So he's a smart dude. I mean, he played. It's tough to kind of gauge some of these what are they called now? 1AA or what the fuck are they called? The league, whatever league they call it. I don't know. They changed
FCS.
Yeah, they changed the name of the league.
Championship series.
Anyways, so it's hard to kind of gauge those guys. You're not seeing them on the regular. They're not playing the type of talent that is deserving of a guy who's obviously going to get drafted very high in this draft. But I think he's going to be a sleeper because he could be we talk about ranking safeties and DBs in this draft. I think he's a guy who's not very much mentioned a lot of times. Talking about Delpit, I almost would rather take a flyer on Duggar over Delpit just from everything that we've seen and the way he's balled the fuck out. I mean, obviously it's against lesser competition, but it seems like he has everything you need from a safety so far as like physical ability, his instincts, just everything he does. And like he's out there returning punts to the house. Like, dude is a freak. And he's just a baller of a football player. And when you get ballers on your team, they do work. Reminds me a lot of Darius Leonard, who's a guy who kind of flies under the radar, comes in, one of the best linebackers in the league instantly, boom, day one. Like Duggar could be a guy like that. That's would be my comparison. Yeah. Obviously different position, but that's my comp for him. And that's a pretty generous comp right there.
For sure.
And I got a Darius Leonard. So that's my first sleeper guy. And my other sleeper guy, I'm going to go with KJ Hill, the Ohio State. I know, again, might be a little cop out from some of the listeners because of knowing that I'm a huge Buckeye fan, but he's just a guy that I think flies under the radar. Reminds me a lot of Terry McLaurin last year. I don't think he's quite the level of Terry McLaurin, but a guy who like a lot of people weren't talking about, a guy who I value very highly, just being able to see what he's done his entire career. KJ Hill's not really getting the love because there's so many wide receivers who are just complete studs. And I mean, KJ Hill, he's not the biggest, he's not the fastest guy, but he's just a reliable Terry McLaurin type guy. All-time receptions leader at Ohio State, which is saying something with the guys who have rolled through there. The only guy with 200 catches at Ohio State, 6 overall in yards and TDs at Ohio State. Like, it's hard to be a guy with those kind of numbers through a career at Ohio State and be falling under the radar. Kind of weird. But I think he's going to be a sleeper. I think he's going to come in and just show that he is going to be a long-time wide receiver in the league. Like, he's not going to be, Odell Beckham Jr. or, Julio Jones coming in, but he's going to be
just a quality starter.
He's going to be a very, very good starter in this league for quite some time. Who's going to drop a little bit in this draft? He might go 4th, 5th round, and I think whoever drafts him back there is going to get a steal.
Yeah, I totally agree with that pick, man. My other buddy that's a huge OSU fan, we talked about him last year actually as being like this huge sleeper that it just seems like no one really talks about, but is just a really reliable receiver.
Especially like recently with Ohio State, with the guys that they've had coming out of the draft, like McLaurin, Paris Campbell, Olave is going to go 1st round probably next year. Like, there's so many guys who he's been behind in the depth chart, but he's still putting up numbers, all reliable out there. 6 most touchdowns of all time at Ohio State. Like, that's saying something. He's going to be a stud.
Yeah. Yeah. OSU just shits out NFL talent.
Sure does. So who you got as your sleepers here coming up outside the 1st round?
I got Logan Wilson, linebacker out of Wyoming.
He's getting a decent amount of hype. I'm like,
yeah, he's getting talked about. So Jake Burns
just started paying attention to him the last couple of weeks. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, I like him, man. And obviously I kind of gravitated toward him because, well, the Browns have a huge hole at linebacker now. And
yes, sir.
So, hey, if they value him there in the 2nd round, and I'm sure he'll be there, I'm starting to buy into taking him and him becoming a starter very early in his career, and pretty decent one at that. So he's kind of my sleeper. Obviously, anything could happen. I also like Malik Harrison out of Ohio State, again, as kind of like a sleeper that, he's going to be late 2nd, maybe 3rd round type of linebacker, maybe higher. I mean, who really knows? But he could fill our void at linebacker, speaking from a Browns perspective.
Yeah. And the other sleeper, I guess I already mentioned him earlier that don't want to forget is Fromm. I think he's going to be one of those sleepers that everybody's going to kind of overlook him at the quarterback position, and he's going to be a guy who he could be one of those guys who falls back into the draft 2nd, 3rd round. Everybody kind of sees him as a stud, like, oh, where did he go in the draft? Like, why did he go so much later? Why wasn't he a 1st rounder? I think that could be Fromm as my other sleeper there.
Watch the New England Patriots draft him.
Oh,
and roll.
Yeah, that would. Or watch them just tank the fuck out and draft Trevor Lawrence next year.
I want that to happen.
What's that? You want that to happen?
I want that to happen.
Get him out the AFC, man. You got enough quarterbacks to contend with as a Browns fan. Fucking Patty Mahomes there.
Bro, I just want to see Bill Belichick actually do it. Like, actually lose Tom Brady because he didn't want to pay him, turn around next season and say, fuck it. I'm going to lose every single game.
It's the Colts
Draft Trevor
strategy.
Lawrence, draft Trevor Lawrence, and pump out championships until he dies on the field.
Yeah.
I want to see it. It'd be sweet.
Yeah, dude, that would not be sweet. You got enough quarterbacks in the AFC to contend with as a Browns fan. You don't need another one.
It's all right. We're not winning the Super Bowl, buddy.
Yeah, that's probably true in my entire lifetime. Probably will never see that.
It's sad.
Never know. Never know.
So another sleeper I got, I had to actually had a couple of Michigan guys. I'm going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones, though. I was obsessed when he was recruited and Michigan signed him. He was a 5-star receiver. I mean, the dude is just, I mean, he's so gifted and athletic. Very underutilized and underdeveloped at Michigan in Jim Harbaugh's pathetic offense. And, he definitely is not polished. Like, he needs some work. But at the same time, like, he's a big body, 6'2" receiver. He's well built. He's fast. He can jump through the roof. Put him on the outside. I mean, look at his name. Why is it DK Metcalf? I mean, people were shitting on, sort of his actual agility and what was, how is that going to translate to running routes and getting open in the NFL? Dude's doing just fine.
Yeah. All on out.
Yeah.
It helps when you have Russ Wilson out there throwing you the ball.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Even though he's running for his life and throwing it.
Yeah.
I think Peoples-Jones has all the potential in the world to be a really good NFL player. Not saying anything crazy. It's just the potential is all there, and I'm going to be rooting for him because he can't help but feel like he got fucked over at Michigan. Yeah. So that's my
athletic freak who didn't really get the opportunity that should have been afforded to him. Like, if you got a guy who's that good, like, imagine him on the Buckeyes with Fields throwing him the ball. Like, dude would have put up insane statistics. Like, but he got stuck in the cog of the Michigan Jim Harbaugh system, and round we go of mediocrity. So, I think that's a good pick up a sleeper because I think his athleticism alone could get him pretty far, and obviously has room to develop at the next level. So,
bro, the Browns get him, put him outside, and move Landry back to the slot. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, they're going to probably lose Higgins, so you're going to need that number 3 guy. Yes. How far do you think he drops back, though, is kind of the realistic
I really don't know. I mean,
the Browns have so many needs. Wide receiver's not one of them. I think he's going to although he's going to be a sleeper, I agree with you. I think he's not going to be a sleeper enough that he's going to fall into a position where the Browns could realistically grab.
Yeah, probably not. I just like thinking about it.
And speaking of, as we're going to do a mock draft, but we're going to save that for the blog. Check that out on our Calling the Field Stands Twitter page. But while we're at it, talking about the Browns, let's do a quick Browns mock for a couple rounds here to throw that in at the end of our podcast here for all the Browns fans as our hometown team. Let's do a quick mock here for the Browns. So I'll throw it to you first. What do you see them doing? First pick. A lot of discussion right now about the Browns potentially trading back. Still, they need offensive tackle. Obviously, there's a shit ton of tackles, especially in the top end of this draft. One would assume they should go tackle, but there's been a lot of discussion lately from some of the analysts and the NFL talking guys about how they might trade back, target a guy later in the draft, later in the first round, potentially even going after in the second round for a tackle and trading back and scooping up more picks. We've seen Andrew Berry, the new GM. He was the right-hand man. Sashi Brown, who his favorite thing in the world was to, stockpile picks. Obviously a little bit different. He was
asked to do that.
Right. That's what I was going to say, like a little bit different of a situation and a circumstance, if you will, so far as like what they were trying to do. Hopefully Barry isn't just that kind of guy who wants picks to stockpile and will go after. In my opinion, I want him to go and draft somebody at 10, and I want it to be a tackle. But a lot of different things could happen. A lot of different scenarios could kind of fall into place. What do you think happens with the Browns ultimately here at number 10? Or potentially they try to trade up. Like we could see that happen if they want to go, target a guy like Simmons or Okuda. I don't think they should, but they could, I guess. What says you on what you think they should do, will do, all the above? What do you think?
I think they should not trade up. Never trade up unless you're going for a quarterback. I mean, or you're like one missing Pete, like, oh, we have Drew Brees, but we just lost Mike Thomas. We got to trade up and get a receiver or something crazy like that. They should not trade up. They should not trade down unless for some reason 4 tackles get drafted in the top 9 picks and
I have
they're
a hard
kind of
time
left
thinking that would
scrambling.
happen. Yeah.
Exactly. Agreed.
If that happens, though, one would assume there's going to be some studs. I mean, you got 4 tackles, the 2, if not 3 quarterbacks.
Well,
that's 7 picks, 8, 9. Who else is even going to be gone? You got Chase Young, Okudah, and Simmons are the other 3. Like one of those 3 is falling in your lap at 10 if 4 tackles go in the top
you
9.
Probably gotta take one of those 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, there is probably going to be a top 3 tackle there at 10, most likely. I'd like to just take them. Like, they have their board. They know who they like. Just take your guy there at number 10. Like, that is our missing piece on the – there's no complete offense out there. When you look at the Browns pieces that they have, dude, if they hit on this pick at offensive tackle and he's, serviceable to average as a rookie on the offensive line, that is going to go a long way in getting Baker's year, bounce back year going in the right direction, Stefanski's first year going in the right direction. Like, it's really important that they get a fucking tackle this draft. So I'd like to see them stay put and get their guy, unless for some odd reason, 3 or 4 tackles are taken off the board and there's someone like Okudah that happens to fall in your lap. And then maybe you can take your 2nd and 3rd round pick and move into the back end of the first. Something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
Much to your point, like if that happens, just fucking trade back and stockpile pick. Because if Jeff Okudah falls to 10, somebody's going to want to pay out to go and get him. So
yeah, that's true.
I'd be fine with that. I'm with agreement on you on that. Like they need to just stay put. One of the most stacked offensive tackle drafts as we've seen in quite some time. Like get one of your 4. They have their board, like you said. I think you can't really go wrong with any 4 of them. They all have question marks. They all have, deficiencies and cons, if you will, of why they might not work out. But don't overthink it. Don't try to outsmart everybody else in the room. Take one of the tackles and be done with it. But to that point, how do you rank those 4 guys? Like we said, obviously, Thomas, Wirfs, Wilkes, and Becton are really the top 4 guys that everybody's talking about as, standing out above, everybody else in the offensive line. How would you say is ranked? Let's say nobody takes a tackle in the first 9 picks and you have your pick at any of them. Who are you taking?
I like Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, that's I think my guy as well.
Dude, he is freaking huge. Recently, I saw a clip actually going up against a linebacker from Michigan, Josh Uche, who's also could be considered a sleeper. Josh Uche on the first step just annihilates him in a power rush move. I mean, he has Tristan Wirfs like skating backwards. All of a sudden, Wirfs, takes a step and recollects himself and just annihilates Josh Uche. I mean, just destroys him. So, and Uche is
who's a nice prospect in his own.
Yeah, I mean, he's quick, he's fast, and for Wirfs to like lose on his first step and get driven back, all of a sudden to reset and damn near bury this dude into the turf, like. Yeah. I don't know, man.
He's an athletic freak, man.
He's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Becton, who's like what 6'8", 380 or something absurd. Like he's just a
mammoth.
Yeah, huge. I forget the guy's name, but the biggest lineman in the league right now, who's the highest paid lineman or something like that. I forget Bears or Buccaneers somewhere. I forget where fucking played. Sure. I forget his name. That's his comp. Is just this giant beast of a lineman, and I'm like, it makes a lot of sense. And he's athletic, Becton, but. All the other 3 are pretty much 6'5", 320-ish range. Most, anything you'll see or read, they're all pretty athletic. Kind of just have to take people's word for it based on like some other linemen who say who's what and what's what with these linemen. But I like Wirfs as well. I think he's super athletic. I think he's going to be a guy who can come and step in and just be the long-time left tackle, even though he played right tackle. In college, I don't think it's going to be a big transition for him to switch over to left. A lot of people might, express some concerns on that, having him switch from right to left. But I don't see that being an issue at all. I think even Joe Thomas said as much. There was a question about, on Twitter, they asked him, is it going to be a difficult transition, or would you be concerned because you played right tackle? And Joe Thomas basically said, no, a couple months of practice and you'll get the hang of it. It's like, a little bit technique difference, but overall in grand scheme of things, there's really no difference between the right and left tackle for the most part. So I'm not really concerned about him going over the left side at all. And I just think he's just been the guy since the beginning for me. And maybe I've fallen in love with him prematurely and just upped him too much early, but I think he's the guy. But honestly, I think they can't go wrong with any four of those guys. If they pick any of them, I'll be like, okay, let's roll. I'm not going to be like, oh, fuck, they missed out on this pick. As long as they don't trade back and go after like Ezra Cleveland, as a lot of people are kind of arguing, I'll be fucking pissed if that happens. Just take your guy at 10. Don't outsmart yourself.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah. The other guy, I really like Jedrick Wills too out of Alabama, but I guess my top two are that I want for the Browns would be Wirfs and Thomas out of Georgia.
Yeah.
I think it's Andrew, right? Andrew
Correct.
Thomas. I'd be happy with either one of those guys. Andrew Thomas was coached at Georgia by Sam Pittman, probably the best offensive line coach in college football. And he was an All-American. So, he's getting high-level coaching. He's clearly athletic enough and talented enough. Either one, man, I'm good. But, yeah, this whole trade down, for all we know, Ezra Cleveland could be, like, fucking awesome, and it ends up working out. But if it were me, I'm staying put, man, right at 10 and taking one of those 3 or 4 with Becton.
Stick with what is the safer pick at this point. You're the fucking Cleveland Browns. You fucked up how many first-round draft picks? Don't fuck up another one. So, that takes us to the second round. What do you think they do? There's a lot of different things. Obviously they need linebacker. Obviously they need safety. And Trent Brown is the dude I was talking about for the Raiders, who's like 6'8", 375 or something like that.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's Mekhi Becton right there. And he's the second highest paid, I think I saw, lineman behind Lane Johnson or something like that. I don't know. It's my 2 seconds of research. I try to refresh my memory on that. So if I fuck that up, so what? Second round, we got a lot of needs still for the Browns. What says you in their second round pick, assuming they take tackle at 10, where do you have them going? I guess I got my ID on 2 guys, assuming, I'll take him, but if he's gone, I'll take this guy. What says you on your top 2? We might end up having the same 2, but what do you think?
Top 2? I kind of talked about one, and I'm still not sure if it makes sense here or not, but Logan Wilson at linebacker, I'm starting to warm up to. But who I really want,
seems a little high though, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I still don't know if I'm warmed up to him that high or not. But Antoine Winfield, man.
Yeah, that was going to be my
guy. God, he's my top choice. If he is there and the Browns take him, I don't even care about the rest of the draft. I will be ecstatic with getting our tackle at 10 and then Antoine Winfield.
The issue I see, and that's why I wanted you to pick number 1 and number 2 on your list, because I was also going to say Winfield at the second round slot, but I have a bad feeling and good feeling on his sake that he will not be there that low. He's probably going to go top, if not in the first round, he'll go top of the second round. And that kind of seems like a candidate for me of a guy that somebody might trade into like the 32 slot or something like that to try to snag an extra year of contract. Cause I think he's going to be a complete stud. So if he drops though, who knows? If he does, take him for sure. My second guy, I think, is Malik Harrison. We talked about him a little bit earlier. I think he's just, we need linebackers. We need safeties. He's a linebacker who's athletic enough to cover. He can get after the QB. He can hold his own in the run game. Like, he's just an all-around solid, really good linebacker who would instantly be the best linebacker on this team, to be honest. Mac Wilson, no offense to Mac Wilson. I think Mac Wilson has a lot of potential to be a stud in his own right. But I think, if they draft Malik Harrison, he's going to come in and be the best linebacker on this team. So I would go there as my second option. Some of those other safeties that we talked about, whether it's Delpit or Chin, I could see them, depending on if Malik's there or not. Like, there's a lot of different things they could do. But, if Winfield's gone, where do you hope they go? Do you hope they stick at safety with just next on their list of safety? Do you think there's somebody else in that range of guys who you want to see them target if they drop or if they're there?
Yeah. Position won't matter to me. Safety, and linebacker are the obvious like next needs, and after offensive tackle,
Yeah.
whatever whoever is the best at either position at that point in time, I'm good with. You
Yeah.
mentioned Malik Harrison, I'm good with him. In the second round, if Winfield is already gone and Grant Delpit is still there, be fine with taking a
Yeah, I'd be
shot
fine with that.
on Grant Delpit. Um, trying to think of anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, or your other sleeper, Duggar.
Yeah,
That's
I'd be fine with that if he went right there. I mean, he's slotted anywhere around there to a little bit later in the draft, but he's moved around a little bit in the mocks that I've seen in the analysis. If they took him, I'd be happy with that as well. Between him, Winfield, Harrison, any of those guys, just stick with, assuming we had tackled in the first round at 10, let's just hopefully lock that in. Stick with linebacker or safety at that second round slot. I don't think you can really go wrong unless you take a flyer on some off the wall dude that high. I think that'd be stupid. Just take kind of best available on your list at those positions, whoever it may be, snag them. Don't overthink it and outsmart yourself. And on we go. I guess we'll see what happens on Friday, but
hell yeah.
I'm nervous
I'm
kind of, as a Browns fan, I'm nervous as always when we watch the drafts because they've done so much stupid fucking shit where you just look at the screen like, Justin Gilbert? What the fuck are we doing? Sure enough, he's a bum. Like every time they try to outsmart, be the smartest guy in the room, it fucking bites him in the ass. Never have they been the smartest guy in the room strategy, and it actually has worked. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again. Got a new regime, new coach, new GM, the whole situation. Been through this fucking dozen times. I'm nervous more than I'm excited, to be honest.
Oh, I'm excited.
I'm excited, of course, to see the draft and kind of get football back in our lives and at the forefront of our minds and getting our minds off of this whole coronavirus situation, at least for a weekend, would be nice. But at the same time, I'm anxious. I guess anxious is the right word because I'm just hoping they don't fuck it up.
Yeah. No, I got a feeling we'll be happy.
Yeah.
Good.
So, all right, man. Well, I think that's solid first episode back after our extended hiatus of a few weeks.
Absolutely.
Hopefully everybody out there is staying healthy and, doing what they can to contribute to the social distancing and not spreading them. I worried that when I see this 26 minutes ago, Florida Beach opens and it's flooded with people, these are the assholes who are going to get football canceled for us, and I'm going to be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, with that being said, hopefully everybody's, staying healthy and safe out there, and hopefully we can get back to some normalcy here soon. And in the meantime, we got the NFL draft to look forward to in the next few days and throughout the weekend, and we'll be back hopefully soon, hopefully next week, to kind of break down what we saw happen in this draft here this weekend and Thursday. If you want to call that the weekend, early weekend, I guess. So we'll break some of that down here soon and just hopefully get back into the flow of pumping out some podcasts and getting some content out there. So been a good time back, Jeff. Been a pleasure.
As always, man.
Peace.